Welcome to Leading with Purpose, the podcast where we explore what it truly means to lead with vision, integrity, and impact. Each episode, we bring you powerful conversations with inspiring leaders, innovators, and change makers who are walking boldly in their purpose. Together, we'll explore their journeys, leadership lessons, and the insights that can help you grow, lead, and serve at your highest level. And now, your hosts, Dawn Marie Bornheimer, Maisha B. Hoy, and Dr. Sharon H. Porter. Welcome to Leading with Purpose, the podcast that's dedicated to helping you become the leader you aspire to be as you lead, empower, inspire, and achieve. I am Dr. Sharon H. Porter, Editor-in-Chief of Vision and Purpose Lifestyle Magazine.
And I'm Dawn Marie Bornheimer, Founder and Chief Impact Officer for Mission Inspired Consulting.
And today's guest is a master storyteller, an innovator in the world of video and learning design. With more than 30 years in the industry, Buddy Broyles has helped organizations educate and engage audiences at scale through strategic, high-quality production. As CEO of Visual Learning Solutions, he leads the creation of corporate training and media experiences that reach hundreds to thousands of employees. In 2025, he expanded that mission by opening Blue Mic Studios, providing businesses with professional podcast production services to amplify their voices. He also serves as partner and executive producer of Austin Music History, LLC, championing the preservation of the city's legendary music culture through documentaries and community storytelling. From the boardroom to the stage, from training rooms to historic venues, his work ensure stories are not only told, but they are remembered. We are simply excited to welcome our guest for this episode, Mr. Buddy Broyles. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Well, thank you, Don. Thank you, Dr. Porter. It's an honor to be here.
Absolutely. And I see that you spent over 30 years in video production. What first drew you to this industry?
Oh boy, a lot of time has passed since then, but I would say I think like most things, I have to thank my mother, because Mom found a job for me at a TV station, and in high school I had been very involved in let's say my friends who are some are in LA making films now, but I was very involved in that culture and that scene and had really great friends there. And like some young adults, I struggled with, what am I going to do? How am I going to have an impact? And that summer, right after high school, there was an opening at a local TV station, and I started working there and loved it. I loved live broadcast. I loved the people that I was surrounded with. And my mentor at the time, Ken Pemberton, which he's actually teaching in this exact subject somewhere at some university in Florida. But I asked him at the time, should I study this? And he said, no. Absolutely not. You're surrounded by people with RTF degrees, radio, television, film at the time is what it was called. Now it's 10 different things. And instead I earned a degree in business, and working in the business and having a degree about business for business has helped me my entire career. And I've enjoyed every minute of it.
I love that. And the longevity of it all really speaks to the love that you have. And I don't know your training. Did you have a lot of formal training for this, or was it a lot of self-taught skills?
Well, it's interesting because that was the advice I was given, is the people you're surrounded with know everything. They've studied this. And that's why I earned a degree in business instead, is because I knew that though I would be in the business, I love the business. I love the creatives. There are things I've learned my hat is producer. Producer is effectively project manager, cheerleader, client wrangler, all of these things. I'm the person that makes it go from A to B, or A to Z, however long your alphabet is, the project is. But I'm the person that makes sure that everybody's confident that we're going to succeed on time, on budget, and deliver an impactful product, whatever the product may be.
I love it. Definitely the skills are needed more so now than ever before. So I'm excited to learn more about it.
Wonderful. And I can expand on all of this. And you mentioned the storyteller, Dr. Porter. The interesting thing is, just before we started this call, I raised my children on bedtime stories. They would say, "Daddy, Daddy, tell us a story," and I created an entire, I'd say, an ecosystem of all these different characters and creatures that still have names today. And that's what I enjoy about the business I'm in, is because we are always, be it training, be it a podcast like we're on now, we are carrying a story of some type, be it about
Absolutely.
people, something you need to learn, but you have to keep the audience engaged. And we have a little mantra is don't distract the learner, don't distract the viewer. If we're doing something that goes outside of whatever our mission is for this particular moment, this product, then we're taking them away. So how do we keep them? And so that's the people I work with. We're always trying to achieve that common goal, is keep them there. Keep them in that zen where they're absorbing the material, enjoying the conversation, enjoying the purpose that brought them there, and aligning with that.
Great information. Thank you.
So, Buddy, I wanted to chat about your role in bringing your gifts to the Austin Music History Project.
Oh, yes.
Because that sounds so exciting and so divinely aligned. I would love to hear what you're doing for them, what you're most excited about that you guys are working on right now.
So it's really interesting. We started that. So my father is a OG Austin musician type person. Back when he was a kid, he was in the Austin music scene a little bit. There are some stories that he tells with some of his colleagues where they discovered, not as in they for themselves, not for the rest of us, but ran into people that really became somebody. And if you go to the Austin Music History YouTube channel, you'll see hundreds of those types of stories. And what I enjoyed about it is my business partner, which is my father, and a gentleman named Craig Hillis, Dr. Hillis, they're musicians to this day. But we were able to sit down and interview musicians. And the interesting thing is, we're not talking the big names that everybody knows right off the top of their head. Now, these are the people who were on stage with them. These are the people that were their friends, right? I have yet to get the opportunity to speak with Mr. Willie Nelson. I don't know that that's coming. But the interesting thing was, and it's somewhat sad, because part of preserving history is knowing that you're going to lose the voices that are telling it. And that's why documentary storytelling is so important, is several of the people that we interviewed, even in the past couple of years, have passed. And we started the whole program just before COVID, which Denny Freeman, who is people who know Denny Freeman, and he passed away during COVID. And we have one of his last performances on a small stage on film, and it's actually on the channel. So just him being himself. So it's a labor of love. Obviously, because it's it's not highly profitable. We're always looking for sponsors. Just throwing that out there. But we'll continue to do it as best for our ability. Austin is changing significantly. Anyone that lives in or near that part of Texas has seen old buildings disappear and new buildings rise. Yeah. Sizable buildings on historic places, and some of the places we filmed are gone. They're now a skyscraper. The skyscraper is on top of wherever the places that happened, right? So we're doing our best to preserve that. But my father's in his 70s, and most of the people we talk to are pushing that. So we'll do the best we can to continue that.
But what a beautiful opportunity to capture those moments and those conversations. I think there's a lot lost when we don't have the opportunity to hear their voices and actually meet them as humans, in addition to experiencing their talent or their craft, which we hope is more evergreen in that regard, right? Because it's recorded. But to really have a conversation with them and to understand who is really at the core of that music movement in a particular city. I've traveled to Austin over the years for business, and year over year, every 5 years you go there and it does look different. The skyline looks different. Some of the hole in the wall places that people say to go find are not there anymore. And so
They're
you
gone.
really just hope that some of those core businesses can survive and those landmarks can be preserved in a way that you can also capture those where you can. But the stories are just so powerful. So I'm glad you guys are working through that group of humans so that those of us that have yet to meet them can still experience them.
If I may add, Denny Freeman was one of the people who discovered Stevie Ray Vaughan. So if you know names, that's one of the names that you would know. And the interesting thing about documentary is what you said, Dawn, was that, we're preserving these very interesting things, but the trick with the other business that I have, the visual learning solutions, is shelf life. Documentary has a forever shelf life.
Mm-hmm.
Podcasting, pretty much forever. Unless, we may, 10 years from now, we may look like we're, from way back when, right? But the message is going to stay the same. Training is very difficult because the shelf life of most good training is just a few years, because mainly because of the way it's delivered, technology, and the way people do their jobs are affected by all of those things.
Yeah, and so much changes in the training and development space so quickly, right? We cite research, we cite, statistics, and you have to pull those out. You have to redesign them. People want to learn differently. There's different technologies available to instructional design, and the way in which we learn just evolves and grows. And so having some of these other evergreen pieces where the messages are holding true and can really teach the next group of humans is really important. So I love that work as part of your portfolio.
When companies normally think about training, they often think information. You think experience. Can you break down the difference for us?
When we speak to potential customers, and I'm very active with the Association of Talent Development here in Dallas, one of the bigger member groups. The ATD is national, but ATD Dallas is sizable. When I'm speaking to potential customers, not everybody fits us, and we don't fit everybody. We are looking for stories to tell, because that's what we're good at. And trust me, I've done lots of procedural, plenty of just very basic, click the button, check the box, right? But what I'm looking for my team in my career are the really impactful content. I'll say the most important work we've done is abuse prevention. And there's a company here in Irving called Presidium, and they're an international company. Their clients, to my knowledge, are still USA Gymnastics, Scouts of America, YMCA. These mainly working with children. And when we're looking for someone like that or an opportunity to work with them, we start from what impact do you want to have? We're trying to avoid the check the box training, because while people need that, you need to check the box to get the insurance or whatnot, or to say that you're qualified for XYZ. We really want people to walk away with knowledge, to be empowered, and also feel like they're invested in, because if a company spends money on their people, especially in really good training, then they're able to do their jobs, but they also feel like, okay, that was worth my time, spending that time to take that training. And the program we created with Presidium, which is, I can't say too much about it other than because it's a private, but we started with what was just going to be actors doing testimonials about abuse. And with their buy-in, full support, once they got it, and they did, they brought a lot of really great ideas. We converted that into a full 1 hour cinematic with, there's the narrative, the story, and the informative, the two sides. The informative was basically an animated, what you just saw, what you can learn from, here are the red flag behaviors, the knowledge. The story itself was an after-school program where abuse was happening. We didn't have to show it, because we're meeting your mind where your mind is in your own personal definition of what's wrong, right? We don't need to show you. There's an example of where one of the volunteers walks into a bathroom and sees something that shocks him. We see it from his perspective. We don't see what it is. But in the reviews for when they're about to release it, some of the feedback was the hair on the back of my neck stood up when he saw that. Well, what did he see? It's whatever you think, right? And so that's where the learning happens, through the experience, through the story. And that's some of the work that I'm most proud of. It was expensive. We hired some really terrific people that really knew what they were doing about luring people in. And that actually led to a publicly available documentary about a family that had suffered abuse. And we turned that into, with their support, full. And Don, you'll like this. This was shot in Austin, and it's a full documentary. And I actually went from that project to the next week recording music artists, because I had my documentary people. But it was really fantastic. Jeff and Judy Ulrey, and you can search them, and they're survivors of family abuse. Their children are healthy and they're happy now. But it was a very difficult time to suffer abuse.
Wow, definitely. And I can definitely tell by the focus of the experience and not just the knowledge, how that actually stays with those individuals who are partaking in this training or the documentary or what have you, because that truly is almost like the lesson is what lingers.
Yes.
And so that's really what sounds like you all are after.
We are.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you.
So listening to you share that, it makes me think about the emotional connection that needs to occur in experiential learning, right? That empathic accuracy, almost the opportunity to say, I may not have had this experience, but I feel something in this moment, and it makes me feel what that person must be feeling, right? A similar connection in that regard. And so the story has the power to do that, just like speeches have the power to do that, and other visual experiences. And I'm thinking about the podcaster who wants to connect with their audience, wants to show who they are, and perhaps share personal stories and or invite others to join them in sharing personal story. What would you say to a newer podcaster that has a real desire to create those experiences with their audience? What is something they need to be mindful of, knowing what you know about the podcasting world versus the video and documentary world, with connecting to emotion in that regard?
Great question. Thank you, Don. I tell people, one, we have to be genuine. We have to be us. In this day of AI and all of these things that are just bombarding us with what we can see is not true, we're very perceptive. And podcasts are both visual, but there's something that happens when you put something in your ear. We can hear the humanity, right? We hear people being human. And if you try to be something you're not, and you convey something that you don't feel is true, we hear it, right? So I tell people, be yourself. And the simplest things, like, what do I do with my hands? Your hands are going to do what they do when you normally talk. Relax. Be yourself. You're broadcasting yourself out there to help people find you. You're not going to find people doing podcasting. They're going to find you. So be yourself and tell them. And the top of my show, I try to start with that's Growing Your Business with Buddy Broyles. That's the show I'm talking about, available everywhere. Our first question is basically, who are you, and what do you do, from the perspective of what's in it for them to listen to this show. We have to pull them in with, what's the value of me spending this time with you? I think there's a saying, whereas if you've wasted 10 minutes with someone, or someone's wasted 10 minutes of your time, that second 8 minutes or so, that's your fault, right? So make it worth their time. Otherwise, they're doing you a favor by tuning out, because they're not your people. So just be genuine, bring your own stories, bring your own history, and try to enjoy yourself, because this is a one-on-one conversation, generally, a one-on-one. Here there are three of us, and that's wonderful. But we're doing what we humans have done for ages, which is having conversations. And we all love it. We all do. Now, introverts struggle, but that's where, if we just keep it simple, we can pull them out of their shell. They want to communicate and they want to be heard.
And what I love about having been in conversation with you is how comfortable you make that experience, but also thinking about the podcaster being themselves and leaving spaciousness for the way the conversation can go. So there is that human factor where you're building off of what the person is saying and not trying to revert back so quickly to what your notes tell you to do next, and really just actively listening in the space. And I think that's the human part, really, this staying attentive so that those that listen can feel a part of the conversation, but also feel that ease that happened within the conversation. So great points. Thank you.
And if I may add to that, Dawn.
Of course.
For my setup, for the shows I do, any interviews I do, and going back to like corporate training and whatnot, when we're talking to C-suite all the way down to frontline, you have to be there with them 100%. This is I'm looking right into the lens of the camera, because in this format, we're not actually eye to eye. So the only way I can make eye contact is look directly into the camera. If I'm looking here, we're not making eye contact anymore. So this is very intentional. When they're sitting in the room with me, I do the same, which is be 100% present. The moment you look away or you're doing something else, you may have lost them, or they'll lose their train of thought, and then they may step out. Now, I do also prep people, like we do when we do podcasts. I'll tell them, my heart's with you, but when you say really interesting things, I'm going to pop down here and take a couple notes, because I want to ask that question. So don't be distracted by that. I'm letting them know that I'll still be there. But this is me making sure I capture what you said, because it's brilliant, right? And so I prepare them for that.
Well, and that's a perfect tip as well, right? For those that are new to podcasting. I do that with video conversations just in meetings. Let them know that I maintain a secondary screen, or I maintain a notebook. I'm an old-fashioned, I write things down. So if you see me doing that, that's because what you're saying matters and it was important to me. And so, just being able to give people that cue, then they don't think something's wrong. They just continue to share what they're sharing. So thank you.
But you mentioned prior to about being an introvert and this whole podcasting thing. It's so funny that you mentioned that, because when I started podcasting probably a decade ago, audio was the thing, right? We just recently started introducing video into podcasting. And so it was a very safe space for me just doing the audio. I could be free. And so it wasn't until the video started coming, and I'm like, oh my God, now I've got to show my face. So I just thought it was funny when you mentioned that, because that was one of the things that drew me to podcasting. I didn't have to be seen. I could just talk and be free. So thank you for mentioning that. And so I'm really interested in the trends that you're seeing and how companies are using podcasts internally as well as external, because now it's a big boom now.
Yeah.
So what are the trends?
That's really great. The timing is great, Dr. Porter. Next week, Thursday next, I'm giving a talk to a business group, and we're talking about the value of podcasting. And having recently started a podcasting business, I didn't really do it on purpose. The reason I did it was I have been podcasting for some time, and like most people, podcasting was one way to grow my brand, be associated with tons of media, because YouTube is the number 2 search engine, owned by Google, which is the number 1. So you're going to get hits and seen and so on. But I started just as a lead generator. What's happened in that time is mainly the tools that make posting possible, the AI tools, have inundated everyone with so much media. And you may see the same AI-generated media from 10 different sources on the same day, same comment, same voice. And what's happening now is a colleague put it a certain way, is we're headed, and I think there's a book on it right now actually that I need to cite, is we're coming into a trust recession, and which leads to a trust depression. Mm-hmm. There's so much media out there that we all, people are doom scrolling, as they call it. At some point, none of the media matters because it's all AI generated. So how do we combat that? We be people, right? Podcasting is one of the easiest ways to be a human being talking to other human beings. And internally, it works the same as externally. Your people finding you now. Internally, obviously, you have somewhat of a trapped audience, but you still want them to get to know you, be personable, be among them, right? And invite them to the conversation. So if you're doing an internal podcast for your business, feature department heads, and again, from the C-suite to the frontline workers. Everybody has a voice. Give them a voice. This is a really easy way, very attainable. They can do it from their phones. And I saw your instructions and I loved it. Turn it sideways, though. You know, the 16 by 9 looks a lot better to all of us, right? We love our big screen TVs, right? Make it this big. But externally, one of the risks I see people making is using a near human AI generated you. There are several tools out there and they're very good. They're not perfect. They're getting there. And that's fine. I'm going to air quote that. If you use a tool like that until someone discovers you are doing it, and then your credibility is gone. I don't trust someone who's going to use my time with a fake version of themselves. There's nothing genuine about that. And that's part of what I'm talking about next week in front of this group is you're going to be yourself as much as, Dr. Porter, you mentioned it. It's really difficult to put yourself out there. But the benefit of podcasting, both inside your business to an internal audience and outside, is it's nearly forever, to our detriment probably. But also, it's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week salesperson for you. It's out there sharing. So as people are scrolling and they find someone that they're like, ooh, that's an interesting person. That's you. You're interesting to them. They may want to do business with you. And that's 2 a.m. because they can't sleep, right? Versus if you don't create that, the sound and what they're seeing and is not you. You're not there, right? And the equation can be much like how it's still true. Everyone has a book inside of them. We all have a book. That's our life story, right? Without a doubt, we have a book inside of us. We all have a podcast inside of us. It's our story. It's who we are. It's our conversation that we want to have with people around us and people we care about, and we want them to be able to find us and, one, be our friend. You want to know people and be friendly, but you want to do business with people that like you and that are like you and can benefit from knowing you. And so that's the value I talk about when I'm talking about podcasting. It's so simple.
Yeah, I love that.
Relatively.
Right. But what's to me, out of all that you said, in this world of AI, I really believe that authenticity is still king, and that is what matters most to everyone out there. So like you said, it may be to the detriment of us with this AI, but it's not going anywhere. But we have to remember that authenticity is where it is. So thank you for that reminder.
Sure. My pleasure.
So I want to stay on the trust lane for a second, because I'm thinking about the emerging thought leaders that recognize that they need to be more visible this year, right? That they need to step out of the shadows of just typing out their thoughts, and they need to be more visible so that they can stand out from generative AI and different ways of, capturing ideas and spewing out content in short periods of time. And so when you think about the trust factor of video content, the trust factor of a podcast, of authentic conversation, what do you think there is that emerging leaders or thought leaders need to be mindful of as they're starting to share their ideas and trying to curate what that experience might be for those that follow them and listen? Are there any tips that you may offer for those folks?
That's a really great question. To build trust, I have a client who comes in once a month because he doesn't want to be on anyone else's podcast, and that's a trust. That's his own choice. But what he does want to do is have this media, because he wants to express certain thoughts in a place where he's not grouped into another brand.
Okay.
Right. He wants to be a guest of, and there's a perception of, and I hope I'm receiving that now, is by being asked to be a guest on an important person's podcast, suddenly you're important, you're interesting, right? And that's the perception of a podcast guest, right? And so this person comes in, brings 10 questions, and I ask him the 10 questions. He answers the 10 questions, and we create that media for him. That's a tiptoe into this opportunity for him to be himself. And he's not reading, that's the important part, he's not reading a teleprompter. He's talking to a person, and you might hear I might give him a little, that in the back. So there's actually a conversation happening there. But it's curated to a bit, but it's still authentic in that these are his words, his thoughts spoken to another person. And it's none of this, what you're seeing out there, and our youth are mostly doing that. And I'm an old guy with adult kids, so I can say the youth of today kind of thing. But wag my finger a little bit is a lot of what I've seen from the influencer area is very much about, it's all about the influencer and however they can grow their own personal brand. My show, much like your show, isn't necessarily, I'm not there, it's not about me. My show is growing your business, right? It's what makes you tick, how did you get where you are, what's your value proposition to yourself and to others, and that's how other people find you. But being authentic versus just being a brand version of you, I think is what they need to watch out for the most. And you do have to curate yourself a little bit. Let's say, for example, 10 years from now, we all know I'm going to hate this haircut, right? So I'll change over time. But my wife loves it. But you do have to do some things to look out for yourself. But being inauthentic, is that a word? Sure, we'll call it for today. Is it's a risk that you're going to carry with you forever, because if you're putting media out there and suddenly you're a different person, now you're starting over, and you're not just starting over, you're way at the back of the line. So be yourself, but go ahead and make this media. It is, and find someone like yourself, myself, find someone who has experience in this area and work with them. And just, it's like anything else, planting a tree, the best time was 20 years ago. The second best time is right now.
Yep.
And the entry is pretty easy at this point. It is not hard to do this, relatively speaking.
Yeah. No, thank you. And that's really important insight to think about. The other thing I think about when I was listening to you speak about the importance of just conveying who you are in the content. I met a marketing agency recently that made a statement during like a webinar where they commented that if your brand identity is different than your own identity, like the way in which you speak, you may want to be mindful of that with your social media presence. And I was like, oh no, I'm my whole self in all spaces. Like, what you see is what you get. Like, my love for the human connection is real. Like, I can't, there is no sending an alternate ego into this conversation. But there are people that do speak differently, do communicate differently, might change the way in which they operate. And that's fair. That may be in service of their brand or in protection of, their privacy. But I think there is something to say for the elevation of your voice and being authentic with your ideas, and the energy that you want to create and the person you're going to show up as when your clients work with you in the future, right? Because that's what's capturing their attention. They're like, I like this person. I could learn from this person. They're patient. They're kind. I love the way they reframe thoughts. Like, when they start to ideate about what it would be like to be in community or in conversation with you, they're picking up on those things. And so you want to make sure that that's what they get when they meet you. So that's also equally important on the trust factor for me.
I also want to redeem myself a little bit with the youth. Our young people are smart, and they beyond, I'd say, the older folks like me, and we used to have a trust of authority, especially media and whatnot, because this was the truth. They are, especially, when I talk to my kids, they're very wary of the voices they're hearing.
Absolutely.
And they're definitely the generation of questioning authority. I know it's cyclical, and maybe a 50, 70 year, 100 year cycle, but this current young generation, if you try to preach to them something that you're not or you wouldn't do, they will quickly step away or disengage or engage you. Yeah. And a lot of people, 50 plus aren't prepared for that level of engagement because they're quick.
And I will say, just building off of that, what I love about this generation is they're willing to ask questions and challenge in a healthy way to better understand they're not just accepting it as true because it came from one particular person.
Right. All the more reason for us to embrace that.
Title.
Yep.
Yep.
Wow. What an amazing episode tonight. A great production is about more than cameras and editing, as we have found out tonight. It's about clarity of purpose, respect for our history, and our commitment to the audience that you serve. From transforming how corporations educate their people to building spaces like Blue Mic Studios where business voices can rise, to preserving the heartbeat of Austin's legendary music community, Buddy Broil has reminded us that storytelling is leadership. Buddy, we want to thank you for sharing your journey, your expertise, and your passion with us on this episode. And we would love to give you this space to share where our audience can find all the great things that you're doing, including your podcast.
Well, Dr. Porter, it's been an honor and a pleasure, and thank you, Dawn, for inviting me to be on your show. If you search Visual Learning Solutions is our training company. It was formed in 2015 and been over 10 years under that brand, but did quite a bit before that on all, you name it. I mean, I've even produced live patient surgery. That's just, you'd be shocked at what I've seen. But Blue Mic Studios is our new brand. We're here in the North DFW area, and we're helping other people like myself who are just trying to get their message out. We're extremely or relatively affordable, depending on what you call affordability. But my goal is to help you understand what you need to do and make sure we support you with how you can do it, how you can succeed, and get your brand voice out there and be authentic. Wow. Number one.
I love it. Again, Buddy, thank you so much for being our guest. Just amazing information. And to our audience, we want to thank you too. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Leading with Purpose podcast. Again, I am Dr. Sharon H. Porter.
And I'm Dawn Marie Bornheimer. As you navigate your leadership journey, remember that leading with purpose is not just a philosophy, but a commitment to making a positive impact.
Continue to lead, empower, inspire, and achieve. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with your network, like, and definitely subscribe.
Until next time, lead with passion,
lead with a positive intention, and by all means, continue to lead with purpose. Thank you for joining today's episode of the Leading with Purpose podcast. We hope this conversation inspired you to reflect, grow, and step even more boldly into your leadership journey. Remember, leadership is not defined by a title. It is defined by impact. It's defined by how you show up, how you serve, and how you uplift others along the way. If today's episode added value to you, be sure to subscribe and share this conversation with another leader who's committed to making a difference. When you lead with clarity, courage, and conviction, you don't just lead, you lead with purpose. Until next time, lead with clarity, lead with courage, and always lead with purpose.